Yo guys, this is Reinhardt and this is gonna be question and answers. Basically, a few people added me on Facebook and existing my friends asked me a bunch of questions in terms of the channel, the gaming, and here I am answering those questions. Now, this is gonna be a relatively long vlog. It's my first try to take this video and I'm looking at the one question. It took me about 8 minutes to answer it, but that was a big ass question too. So with that said, is if you guys feel like you wanna play the video game, own the people in the battleground, so do whatever you want and just listen to me in the background, go for it. However, I do promise this video I will make it worth your time. At least if anything, I'll try to stimulate your head here. So I'm gonna actually skip the large question and I'm gonna answer it last. But so one of the questions I like is, what do you think are the top classes for PvP right now? Well, the top classes are right now, if we exclude tanks, because the tanks are just a phenomenon right now. I actually no, sorry, I'm not gonna be politically fucking correct. The tanks are disaster right now. They do more damage than the DPS, and they survive a whole lot more as well. If you fight a tank, it's just you wanna kind of like, if you're a DPS who doesn't have a self-sustainability, meaning Demon Hunters actually have a great sustainability. If you're not a monk or rat or anybody else who can self-heal real well, tanks are just gonna plummet you down the ground and stomp on you. So if we exclude the tanks, because they even said, Holink even said, they will be nerfing them. So if we exclude the tanks, then let's talk about the DPS classes. The first DPS classes that is the best, I would say, is a monk. Definitely monk is DPS monk. And Ray actually, Ray this Fury, one of the YouTubers, multi-gladiator Russian Fury Warrior, gave me this idea and I just did a fantastic and holy shit, I agree. So Fury Warriors, Furies, monks are number one. Why? Because they have mobility, they have amazing crowd control, like 2 stuns plus the sap on relatively low cooldowns. They have one of the best mobility in the game, and they have self-healed, and they have a really good defenses right now as well. So monks are number one. They're just a stacked class at the moment. Then we go, and then I would probably put Demon Hunters to be the second. Why? Is because boggles my mind. The Demon Hunters are extremely strong. They went back and forth, nerfing, buffing them. But right now, for example, a Demon Hunter who releases Metamorphosis, which is a 4-minute cooldown, it's like 16 seconds, right? So his melee attack would hit up to 250,000, which is about 10% of somebody else's HP. And they will heal back on the same amount. That's ridiculous. They have a lot of AoE, they have a 10-second sap, they have a good amount of stuns, and only the reason why, they have also good mobility. Only the reason why I would put them a little bit below Monk is because they don't have almost as much mobility as the Monk does, and sometimes their mobility is they would charge and they will just overthrow. Like, if I'm standing here and Demon Hunter standing here, his charge or his gap closer can actually overshot, and I just have to run in separate directions. So they don't have as much mobility almost, still amazing crowd control, and they cannot heal other classes. The third one, I would put in the classes that are extremely versatile. Really, like, there's technically, there is some weaknesses, but it could be just, or like, the first category is, I would say, gods. Gods that are just excel at multiple things, and that's gonna be a monk and the Demon Hunter. The second tier, I would say, like a solid performance, like really solid performance. Tanks excluded. I would put rogues in there because their damage is just scary and their escapes are good and their crowd control is still much better than most of the other classes. I would put pharaohs in there because, again, crowd control, mobility, and self heals. The only reason why they're not a god tier 1 is because they don't have as much damage. They don't do as much damage as the other classes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 classes, 4 out of 11 classes. The third tier is a solid middle. It's a solid middle. It's like solid performers. It's like not the best, but definitely not the worst. So those are just a solid center. Solid center. I would put Reds, but I would kind of put Reds in between 3 and 4. They're a little bit better. Now, then I put Arms Warriors, Fury Warriors. I would put Death Knights in there as a solid performer. So it will be Paladin, it will be Death Knight, and a Warrior. And it concludes us to 7 classes already. So with that said, in that solid performers, I would put a couple different specs. Caster specs. That would be a Fire Mage, because Fire Mages are extremely deadly. Their damage is just insane. I would put Arcane Mages there as well. And kind of a little bit on the lower tier would be Frost Mage. So the only one caster that gets into the middle tier is Mages. Then the next tier we have is basically going to be kind of like a lacking, like a little bit like debilitating performance. That will be a UA Lux, that will be kind of a Destro Lux, that will be Boomkins, and they're just a little bit weak. Like they need a bit of a buffing. And then we're sitting and there is a garbage tier. And a garbage tier is Demolux to begin with. Like I haven't seen one, I've tried a couple and it's just so many interrupts and just a damage is a little bit underwhelming to the point where by the time you've done wrapping up all your cooldowns and everything else, kind of like Unholy Decay but a lot worse. By the time you're done wrapping up all your cooldowns, the other person already popped all their cooldowns and you're dead. So I would put Demolux in there and probably okay, so that the only thing I forgot are hunters. Well, I think one of those things I forgot is hunters. So we had 7, 8, 9. Okay, so hunters I would put a little bit tier. So if we have tier 3 middle, tier 4 lacking, I'll put them in a lacking tier. And then I would put pretty much like garbage. So we have 5 tiers. So tier 4 is hunters, tier 5 is garbage tier, is basically that. And the Shadow Priest, Shadow Priest so far from what I've seen, and I do believe there's a huge skill potential, but because Shadow Priest is notoriously known to be weak against melee, I'll put a Shadow Priest at rank 4, but he has a potential to become 5, to become solid as well. So far, again, melee kind of supersedes, but not all the melee too. Like, DKs are pretty strong, but they were systematically known strong against the casters in duels, but in arenas, casters can run their circles around them because of the mobility. Warriors, they do tend to be kind of the same thing. But if you, as a caster, if you fight against the demon hunters, monks, or rogues, just forget it. Just literally forget. So, with that said, let's move on to the next question. That took 8 minutes. Damn. Will you play on a private server? By Ryan. So, Ryan, I will not play on a private server. The reason why is because, well, first of all, it's illegal. I can get my YouTube channel shut down, technically speaking, if Blizzard is going to be very spiteful. With that said, why else would I not play it? Outside the legal implications, which I honestly don't care. The way I look at it is, it's a personal vanity, I guess. It's a personal kind of a decision. So, if the developers, like, I feel like it's just like a second best to retail. I guess that's my feeling is. Yes, there's nostalgia feeling and I want to play towards that nostalgia feeling. However, the problem I'm having with this, well, first of all the private servers are in Europe, so my MS is really, really high because I was looking into it. But the biggest thing is, I'd rather not play WoW at all than play a non-retail version. The reason that my decision making why I would not play on a private server, I would probably play on a legacy server made by WoW, but not on actual private server. So the legal applications, the ping is second, but the third is, I don't know. It's kind of my little like spiteful behavior. Like, okay, so Blizzard's fucked up with VOD. I don't want to even give them any acknowledgement to be playing their game, even on the other server. Okay. And honestly, Legion is gonna be a mediocre-ish. It's not gonna be even taking half of my time. I'll probably allocate some of my gaming time towards the other games as well. and I will be explaining. There's another question of that. So, will I play on the private server? No. Will I play on the legacy server? Yes. MS is one thing, and also it depends. The legacy server. Are there going to be any rankings or anything else official that I can actually play on and I can compete against other players? Uh, okay, so Adam actually made a really good question. What other games do you play? Uh, do you play any other MMOs? So it's kind of a two questions, but we're gonna bundle into one. Do I play any other games? Yes, I play Total War Warhammer because that's freaking awesome. I'm a diamond rated in Hearts of the Stone, Heroes of the Storm. I love the game, by the way. I'm not trolling at all. As much as people like League of Legends and Dota and the complexity and everything else, and how much I preach the complexity about the classes, the reason why I like Heroes of the Storm is from the first level you get in there, you roam, you kick ass right away. Like, you don't have to have this ramp up time to be awesome. Like, you engage into killing right away. Kind of a game like a Savage 2. I loved Savage 2. Heroes of the Storm kind of a built around that as well. So if those who don't know what a Savage 2 is, look it up. So, but Heroes of the Storm is not my I got actually Legendary Eagle in Counter Strike with my 30-year-old reaction times, right? So that was actually pretty awesome. So every now I just play a quick skirmish for Counter Strike. Then I play SWTOR. SWTOR, I want to get into ranked, but it takes 15 minutes to 20 minutes to get the queue pop, and while I have a decent learning curve, it just doesn't pop very often. So with that said, I don't really want to invest a lot of time. Like, I play for fun because, let's say, if I want to have a single player experience, like Witcher or something like that, I do play Witcher occasionally, but if I want to have Witcher Skyrim experience, I play Star Wars The Old Republic because they do have technically the same kind of infrastructure, but I also, as a player, I queue for the PvP and I shit on people. It's pretty fun, actually. So, SWTOR. Now, the games I'm going to be looking out on, because I think it's kind of a cool thing to add here, is going to be Camelot Unchained. I believe Camelot Unchained, compared to all the other MMOs, that one will be awesome. The reason why is because of an amazing role PvP concept there. Like, I don't know. Blade and Soul, like a few other games I looked into, I'm like, that doesn't look that fun. But Camelot Unchained, they have a lot of classes. It seems like there are gonna be complexity in the classes, and I wanna, like, this is the game I'm actually looking out on. So with that said, what else? What other questions? What are the top classes? What do you do now? Okay, so now that I actually quit the job, why was my day looking? Well, it's actually looking pretty brutal sometimes. So I wake up usually at 7:30 in the morning. Sometimes today I woke up at 6 because I didn't. So I wake up between 6 and 7 o'clock. Sometimes 7:30. One day this week I slept till 9 o'clock. Hard day I, but it was my day off. So I wake up early in the morning and I get on here and start making videos. I start testing. I start theory crafting. A lot of my time actually goes right now on Legion and just test a few broken shit and just get my groove back on. Then I do recording and then I make videos. I make videos for this channel, for my basically philosophy channel. Then I make it for my Russian channel. It has like 6,000 subscribers. So I do those. So that's about 3 to 4 videos a day. And the videos do take a long time to make. So on the days that I don't release the video, I try to work on the footage. Then I go back on my website, which is gamers-league.com, and I'm starting to work on like Unholy and the guides and everything else. And I try to network with people who are highly skilled, who want to provide the content. Then I go back and I work towards my nutritional book that I'm writing. Yes, I actually making a book there. Then I go and I play video games and I relax a little bit. And in the meantime, I look up some of the philosophy speakers. I'm looking into politics and a bunch of other stuff. They're kind of like self-development, self-awareness, right? So in the middle of that, that's just me like being productive here. But at 11 to 1 o'clock, depending on how am I doing on my time on the videos and everything else, I go and I weightlift. And then about 7 o'clock, I do CrossFit. Now I'm moving into this week. I'm gonna try to change the schedule a little bit. I'll try to go to do a CrossFit at 8:30 in the morning, 7:30, 8:30 in the morning to do a CrossFit. Then I want to do weightlifting at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then I would want to do like cardio maybe at like 5 or 6. So I'm adding another exercise on top of it. So, and that's brutal. Like for a person who quit smoking and getting into all that, it's pretty brutal. But I do have a strict deadline time for myself, so I don't like getting rid of like I'm technically unemployed right now, but I have so many different projects and everything else I work on that it actually keeps me very very happy. And in any case, if I honestly not gonna succeed, it's not a much. I already had a couple of people asking me if I'm looking for another position, for a job. Like I was in a high tier, like a business sales for one of the corporate companies, so I can actually find a job already. I'm actually going on a little luncheon with one of the employers who tried to hire me a couple of years ago. So, but with that said, I'm having a blast, but not one of those like lazy, sleeping at home, unproductive blasts. I have a blast because I'm developing myself, I'm learning a lot of new things, and I develop myself in terms of fitness. Question by George on Facebook. By the way, George, you've been a loyal supporter. We constantly chat. So, Frost or Unholy? Currently, Unholy does look a little bit stronger, but the Frost single target damage is scary. Very, very well made. Frost with a clock top kind of a target. Not on the RBG level. By the way, on RBG level, I think Unholy is gonna just like blast Frost out of the water. Unless the Howling Blast is gonna be buffed, then it's gonna be a toss up between the two. But the Frost single target damage is really really scary, and especially there's a Chill Strike that basically takes like 10% of your HP and it bounces. And it bounces up to, I believe, like 5 times. So that Chill Strike is basically, if you play 3v3, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes like 50% of somebody else's HP, but if there's two people close to each other, it bounces back and forth, and you're like, holy crap, where did my HP go? Like, you will legitimately lose about 30% of your HP. And melee wise, the Frost is a lot more deadly. However, Unholy does feel like a Boomkin with more damage and less crowd control, with a weird kiting capability too. Like Unholy is actually not bad at kiting. You just have to uh, get your timers right. So I think in PvP, strictly looking by everything, all the data, I think Unholy is a little bit, tiny bit better than Frost at the moment. But the Frost recently got buffs, and I need to actually like check out more Frost damage, because some of that what I've seen their damage is like I got murked in like 4 seconds with my DK against Frost once. So I was like, whoa, what is that came from? Okay, so we have David. What is better way to kill somebody in arena? Use Obliterate or Howling Blast to generate runic power. So if you think about runic power generation, we're talking about the Frost Death Knight with a single target weapons, that where you go for the Frost strikes. So with that said, is do you want to cleave or do you want to do single target damage? The thing about arena right now, the meta is wait for all your cooldowns and burst as much as possible, and get a crowd control on a healer. That's just how the meta works. It's not about the sustained damage. It's all about the burst damage that you have during your trinkets and everything else. So with that said, what is the best way to do it is actually probably going to be very simple. If you have all your trinkets, if you have everything up, set up, and you're fighting against like a rogue or priest or somebody who doesn't have a lot of armor, but I'm not sure about the priest because they were messing with it, and I'm not playing VOD. But it's just a general rule of thumb. When you're bursting, you want the most damage out of your abilities coming out. So when you should burst? You should burst when you have your Fallen Crusader, when you have Razorist, when you have Trinket proc, and then you activate your Trinket and you pop a Pillar of Frost. That's ideal situation, which happens very rarely. Sometimes you're most likely gonna blow up your, like, you kind of have a toss-up between Razorist and proc Trinket. And sometimes it's better to go with a proc Trinket in the beginning and burst as much as possible, and then in 1 minute, and then take the whole minute, just burst everything as much as possible to force the enemy team playing defensive, and then during that whole minute while you're waiting for your cooldowns to come back up, then work on technically like setting up kill. But when you want to set up the kill, you want to have as much shooting power available to you because Frost Strike is your main damage dealing capability. So you want to start with unleashing your Frost Strikes, and then as you have runes, at this point I'm pretty sure Obliterate still hits harder than Frost Strike. Hits still harder than Howling Blast. So at that point you want to use Obliterate. However, if you have a Killing Machine proc that Obliterate consumes, and you want to use that, let's say, for your Frost Strike, and you have 22 runic power and you need just a 10 more runic power, something like that, then go ahead and use Howling Blast. So then your Frost Strike is going to be guaranteed critical instead of wasting the Killing Machine proc on Obliterate. So it's kind of just a little bit of a mind game. So hopefully that kind of helps without me actually even playing the Worlds of Draenor. Do you think Legion is going to be successful? This is the last question I actually end up. Do I think Legion is going to be successful? Financially, anything that Blizzard makes, even farts, is going to be successful no matter what. Let's say only 6 million of people are going to buy the expansion for $50. That's $300 million of pure revenue. Here, Blizzard, take my money. Now, how much it takes to make an MMO? Anywhere from 30 to 60 million to make a brand new MMO. Rift took about 60 million to make. A few were like 35, 40. So let's say expansion takes 30 millions to make. Well, why 30 million? The reason why is because expansions are cheaper to make or to work on than to make a brand new MMO. Because if you make a brand new MMO, you have to create your own engine. You have to polish that engine. You have to create the classes. You have to create different spells and spell IDs. You create a different math. You create a different gearing system from level 10 to level 60. All those different gear and stat and everything else. You have to create the war zones. You have to create a leveling zone, which is huge. Level 1 to 10 leveling zone, 10 to 20, 30 to 40. And then you have a decent MMO. When you create the expansion, you create a leveling zone, right? Technically, they didn't create a new freaking battleground. A couple arenas, to make arenas is a joke. They already have the textures, they already have the engine, they already have everything. Yes, the voice activation, the voice and honestly, Marley was the biggest and the hardest thing for Blizzard to make for Legion was probably cinematics than actual game. Believe it or not. Like their cinematics are amazing, fantastic, and they are very, very time consuming. So let's say it takes 30 million to make a Legion, right? And they make 300 million back. That's 10 to 1 investment. That's a highly successful monetarily wise. And that's even before the subscription fee that we have to pay. And let's say we have to pay subscription fee, like people will pay subscription fee for 3 months and then they quit the game. So that's 45 times 60. So that's 270 million on top of it. So that's 570 million. But what about the server maintenance? What about all of that? Well, it does take money, but it doesn't so highly successful. Financially, I am not too worried about Blizzard, especially with their ripped on Team Fortress 2. Overwatch came out. Honestly, you know what the difference between Overwatch and the Team Fortress 2? Overwatch has a sexy ass and a nice tits. But the layout is kind of the same. Anyway, besides that point, so we're looking at here and we're looking technically how will that be successful in my eyes as a gamer. So what am I after? I am after some kind of a theme. I like the Necromancer / Death Knight theme. Like that one has to do with undead. I don't know why. It's just something I always was into. I was a competitive player for Warcraft 3 and I played undead. I live in a small country called Uzbekistan. I'm Russian, I'm Christian and Christian Orthodox. But I lived in that country because when it fell apart from USSR and I lived in Russia, like we traveled quite a bit. There, I was number 1 in the entire country for Warcraft 3. And I went to a different actually cities to play and to compete and I won a lot of prizes for Warcraft 3 game. It was awesome. So with that said, and I played Undead. And the only reason I started playing is because they released Undead. So theme, Necromancer, Death Knight theme has to be for me. But this kind of like a Dark Knight variation. But the second thing I'm looking at is the combat and the complexity of the classes, complexity of the game. For me personally, I take a good amount of time to research the classes to find out the perfect rotations and how to do it, how to be a good damage dealer, how to perform and get the most out of my class. And when the class ceiling is really low, meaning that you cannot really learn a lot, the game gets boring for me. Hence why I quit WoW within the first 1 or 2 months, because I just like, well, this is stupid. There's no really difference between a person who invested into learning how to play their class versus a person who didn't do it. In Legion, Legion is still rotation wise is even easier than VOD for a lot of classes. A few exceptions like Arms Warriors, but it is easier. So again, the skill differentiation is not there. And with that said, if the skill is not there and the creativity of classes, yes, I like zombies. And a lot of people are like, well, Reinhardt, they got so much class creativity. I'm like, man, I can create zombies, but that doesn't mean much. I like the zombies. I like that you spam Army of the Dead, but it still doesn't really like the Mists of Pandaria was the best age for Unholy. After that, they still never got it back. But so, in my opinion, Legion is gonna be successful, more successful than VOD, from the standpoint of us being kind of like illuminated by the game, because they have so much artifact development, they have so much time you have to spend on your character to develop it first. Yeah, it's gonna be successful. More people is gonna be subscribed for longer. However, from a PvP standpoint, the combat and the class design, I don't think Legion is gonna be successful. I think it's gonna be a little bit better than VOD, but not by much. So, and I believe there's a few other questions. No, I think that's about it. So, I do look forward to Camelot Unchained. And I'm probably gonna make another video saying why I look forward to that game. I think that game is gonna be awesome, like amazing. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and до свидания.